Oh, I like a little rock. I like a little roll. That rockabilly music, honey, it gets way down in my soul. Oh yeah, got a hold on me. Born in Louisiana in the middle of a swampland, a backwater bullfrog, I'm ready to jump. Oh yeah, got a hold on me. I'm a boogie, woogie, boogie, woogie, boogie, boogie man from Tennessee.
Just sitting here with my hero, Sleepy LaBeef. It's
good to be here with you, Dave.
Yeah, man, it's great. It's great. You were here in town, passing through, and I couldn't resist the opportunity to just sit down and just talk about some stuff and talk about your earliest exposure to music as a kid, growing up in Arkansas. What was that like?
It was fun. It made me have the desire to learn. I had Uncle Fred and a few kid uncles, you know, that played, and then on the Coke side, I had a fiddle player. Rufus Coke was a rhythm player. And Uncle Hilton was one of the Louisiana, they call him Louisiana champion fiddlers, but he's really from Arkansas. He moved to Louisiana, and he played with a lot of people in Louisiana, hayride type people, stuff.
Right.
So I had a lot of influences from uncles.
Interesting.
Of course, my mother played the old French accordion, but I never heard it. But people had told me about, hey, Jessie used to be good on that French accordion, but I never heard her play.
Oh, wow.
But she had a loud voice. She influenced me that way a lot, too.
I see. And did you gravitate towards the guitar first, or did just the music kind of...
I think the guitar first, and then the instrument you like, the upright bass. I got to where I was pretty good on upright bass. Not a Dave Pomeroy, but I could play it a little bit. Well, still enjoy that.
I remember you several times just jumping up and grabbing the bass and whopping that thing.
A few slap licks, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And so how old were you when you started playing the guitar?
I would think 12.
Yeah.
I ordered one from, I believe it was Sears and Roebuck, a Gene Autry guitar.
Wow.
But then later I traded up. I traded a brother-in-law a .22 rifle for a Spanish guitar. It was made in Mexico, and It lasted a while. Finally, I discovered Martin and Gibson. You know,
yeah.
For me, that was good.
Yeah, and now when you were first starting to get out and perform, you know, did you put together a band with your friends, or
no?
Were you
I
playing...
just get up singing little country churches and scared to death. And sometime I'd forget my words because I was so frightened, stage fright.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved it. I said, you know, if I'm going to do this and I want to do this, I'm going to have to get over that stage fright. So I got to where I enjoyed it. It didn't bother me anymore.
Yeah.
You never lose it completely enough to be respectful to your audience.
That's right.
You've got to still say.
Well, and that's true, because I've said sometimes to people who are dealing with that, I say, well, you know, you got to understand nervousness is energy, and you just got to focus it. You just got
the right direction.
You just got to focus it if you can, and practice makes perfect on that. Talk about some of the first songs that you learned. Were they gospel songs mostly? Yeah. I know that later on, Sister Rosetta Tharpe was someone that you really looked up to. Were there particular artists that you saw where you would go, oh man, I want to do that, or how did you build up your repertoire?
That was part of it. I listened to Sister Rosetta Tharpe on her recordings, and that was a great influence. Walter Bales with the Bales Brothers.
Yep.
In fact, I think if I ever got close to trying to sound like somebody, it'd be like Walter.
Interesting.
Because to me, he had one of the greatest voices, a projection, you know, of the Bales Brothers. He was the main one as far as I was concerned.
And now, did you get to see them live?
Oh yeah, I know Walter. He got converted and become a preacher, and I sit under him while he preached a few times. You know.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I knew his brothers through Homer and Johnny Bales. So they were a good influence, I thought. And some of their songs, you know, Dust on the Bible, things like that, was some of the first influences. And really, I saw Martha Carson. She was a young lady.
Yep.
She come to El Dorado for Piggly Wiggly grocery stores and set up between the aisles of the canned goods
in the store
and meat departments, you know. So I listened to her, and I said, "Hey, this is good."
That's great.
Because actually, she was singing rockabilly or rock and roll before it was ever named.
Yeah. Well, that's what one of the things I really wanted to talk about was that moment in our culture where gospel and hillbilly music kind of came together with this new energy and ended up becoming rock and roll. I mean, you were there while that was evolving, and it's an interesting comment because I don't think Martha Carson gets a lot of credit.
But she deserved it.
Yeah, and you know, I got to meet her a few times.
Well, you know, she's singing. I cut that "Satisfied."
That's right.
And she's singing with me. That's good.
Right.
That was quite a thrill.
That was excellent. That was excellent. Well, so what was the big bang of that for you? I mean, was Elvis the one that kind of brought it all together? I mean, but you saw it. Did you see it coming?
I think he opened the doors.
Yeah.
I think Elvis did for a lot of people that was doing this kind of exciting, high energy music.
Right.
Before they wanted something like, and Bob Wills was great. I sat in with his band, the Texas Playboys.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. I think I sat in with Bob Wills and played a Hank Williams number. So I definitely wouldn't do a Bob Wills with him.
Right.
But that was fun, and you should do something like that. That the pattern and mold, everything had already been set. But Elvis broke the mold.
Right.
See, he give people more freedom to go different directions.
Yeah.
Like you could say Elvis was country. Yeah, he was. He was R&B. He was gospel. He was the whole thing.
A little bit of everything.
He felt free to go any direction he wanted to.
Yeah, and one of your trademarks as a performer is stylistically going from one side to the other. And so you would give Elvis some credit for just opening up that.
For opening the doors, for giving people the freedom to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was such an interesting time. Now, you had gravitated down towards the Louisiana Hayride at one point, and that was right around the same time.
Houston Jamboree and Louisiana Hayride.
Right. And so you had already been recording and stuff, but it's starting in Houston, right?
That's where I first, out Camden, Arkansas.
Okay.
That's where I got me a Telecaster, and I was playing pretty good lead, you know, just simple, basic lead. And I had a preacher friend that went in and recorded a couple of gospel songs. So he respected me enough to get me to play lead on him. So
wow.
I don't have a copy of that anymore, but there's a few out there.
Wow.
Oyd, the Reynolds, Brother Reynolds, I recorded with him. And a few other people I got a chance to play with, and I got to where I'm pretty confident in my lead playing. But then I said, there's so many good ones out there. I began to hire lead men and play rhythm on my D28 Martin or whatever I had.
Well, one of your strengths is being able to lead the band from the rhythm guitar and make it real clear where it's going. And you know, I think that's a great strength of yours. But so your first recordings in Houston, was that Pappy Daly and
right.
and
at Bill Quinn Studios on Brock Street.
Yeah.
He was one of the first ones to get the sound that Sam Phillips was getting out of Memphis.
Right.
So he had techniques. Of course, Jack Clements, Cowboy Jack Clements, come down and work for Gold Star Records there in Houston.
Yep.
And Bill Quinn, and he directed a lot of the sessions. He worked on a lot of my sessions, you know, whether he got credit or not. Sometimes Hal Harrison get more credit than Jack Clemens.
Well,
he
did
a lot.
Jack was there at a lot of very important musical events over the years.
He was. He was good.
And a very interesting guy, and a fan of yours for sure. So you were in Houston, but it was around. There was the time when Elvis, you know, sort of tried to get on the Grand Ole Opry and was refused, and then he sort of left town with his tail between his legs and went down to the Louisiana Hayride.
Yeah.
And played. And that was, you were around the Hayride about that same time, right?
Right after he left. We had a lot of good people, Farron Young, Webb Pierce, the Bales brothers, sometimes on the Hayride, Red Savine, so many of the greats that came to Nashville.
It was sort of almost like a farm team for the Grand Ole Opry.
It was.
In a way, you know?
You're right.
But you know, I think there's no question that Elvis changed a lot of things. you know, and then of course, as it became, you know, like it always does, it becomes more mainstream. And then, you know, in the early 60s, the British invasion starts, where they basically are taking our music, putting their own spin on it and bringing it back. And so, you know, at that time, like say, moving forward into like the early 60s, what was it like then? Were you on the road all the time? Were you just, like, you know, pretty much
it's probably a bad thing to do, but I was on the road sometimes. Sometimes I was doing 300 shows a year.
Yeah.
Way back then, you know. Traveling all the time. From one place I'd go to another, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes take sit-down gigs. I took sit-down gigs in Las Vegas, the Golden Nugget, for 2 weeks at a time. That was fun. I was there when they brought the automatic curtain in to the Golden Nugget.
Oh, really?
And I got caught outside that curtain many times. It closed automatically.
Show's over, folks. Juke.
Yeah. As far as I was concerned, it wasn't, but they said it was.
Well, there you go. Yeah, nothing like a deadline.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great. And so you did make your way to Nashville and made some records in Nashville in the mid-60s.
I was living in Houston, and I'd recorded for Star Day, and I think I was just kind of idle at this time. And one night I was going to work at the Wayside Lounge. I had a song called Boogie at the Wayside Lounge. Okay. And I got a phone call. The waitress come up. We was getting ready to start playing. The waitress comes and says, Sleepy, you got a call from Nashville, from Columbia Records. Yeah, I bet I do. So I went over and I said, hello. He says, is this Sleepy? And I said, yeah. This is Don Law from Nashville.
Don Law.
Don Law singer, yeah. And so he set up a deal for me to come to Nashville. And so within about 2 or 3 months, I come to Nashville and cut. I thought I was going to get cut with my band. I only used one of my band members, and they had them all set up, studio music, because they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
That was their element.
You remember who was on that session?
Oh, yeah. There was a first session, I believe. It was Grady Martin, Jackie Phelps, and Willie Ackerman. And maybe Floyd Kramer or Pig, I can't remember, but there was some. They were good. They were all top shelf.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And Blackland Farmer was the biggest single that you had while you were on Columbia there, right? Was that one of the singles?
Blackland Farmer, I believe, was on Plantation Sun, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. You're right. I'm a little ahead of myself. But did you ever do an album for Columbia, or was it just some singles?
They made it later. They put a lot of stuff on, but the time I was with them, they didn't put an album out on me.
Yeah.
But I was on a few compilation albums.
Mm-hmm. And you played the Grand Ole Opry a couple times in the 60s.
In the 60s, yeah.
What was that?
I had Jackie Phelps and the harmonica player, piano player, Riddle.
Oh, Jimmy Riddle.
Yeah.
Jimmy
Riddle
Riddle
was on it with me, and a lot of the good opera people.
Yeah. That must have been a thrill the first time.
It was, and I had a copy of it later, you know. And I had a copy of the one with the last show that I did, the Ernest Tubb Record Shop with Ira Lubin.
Oh, wow.
He was on that. I had a copy of that, and then somehow it got electrically interfered with and began to make weird sounds. So it wasn't playable much.
Maybe it's somewhere on an acetate somewhere, but
yeah.
But yeah, and I'm sure, of course, the Grand Ole Opry being at the Ryman downtown in that time of Nashville, very different than it is now. But it must have been a thrill. And you played it a few times in the '60s, right?
Yeah,
I think in the late '60s. And
not always the main one. Sometimes Friday night.
And so, were you living in Nashville for a while?
Yes, I was.
Yeah. And so, from Nashville, did you go back to Arkansas or?
No, went to New England.
Okay, so that's getting towards the time where I met you.
Boston area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took you out to Boston. People love you. They still remember you in Boston.
Well, you know, I tell you, just my side of this story, you know, I moved to Nashville in October of '77, and I've been here maybe a month and realized that I wasn't going to set the world on fire as far as being a session player or anything like that. Nobody knew who I was, and I had to do something, and I put up a business card, kind of a handwritten business card up on Hughley's Music downtown, And literally the next day I get a call from a drummer, a guy named Cleet Chapman, who calls me and says,
I said, Cleet, get a good one. So he must have heard you.
He called me up and we talked a little bit, and I was trying not to give away the fact that I was, as far as country music or anything other than hard rock, I really didn't know much. So I was trying not to give that away. And I went
But
down.
you played everything. We were getting to go in all directions.
Well, see,
we had a hard time losing you. You stayed right with us.
Well, it was the perfect timing for me because I was, I'd been overseas and come to Nashville knowing one person, trying to get something going. And so I remember Cleet said, "Well, come down to Lion Ball's restaurant and we'll talk." And I can still remember you asked me 3 questions. You said, "Can you play the bass?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Can you sing?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Can you leave tomorrow?" And the next day I got in that motorhome and we drove up to Boston and pretty much camped out there for about a year and had that as our base of operations. And I've said it many times publicly and otherwise, but you taught me so much without ever sitting down and saying, "Here's how it goes." It was just jumping in the deep end of the pool. Follow me. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going somewhere, and stick with me. And
well, you were not a rank amateur. You had some tricks up your sleeve. You knew what was going on, and a lot of people don't know that. But you sing a lot of songs for me.
Well, and that was fun because
you could do some good ones too.
You forced me out of my comfort zone vocally, big time. I remember singing Behind Closed Doors
and Amy Lou,
a bunch of songs. But what was great for me was it was the best ear training a musician could ever have because there were no formal instructions, there were no charts. It was just follow and just to. I've used those skills. I've used those skills the rest of my career, and I didn't really understand at the time what a great preparation it was for everything that's happened after that. So I was with you almost a year and wanted to give Nashville a try. So I came back, but we've been fortunate enough to stay in touch over all these years. But you worked in the Boston area for a long time, and you've still got a serious fan base.
Yes, I do. But you fit right in with the group, and you added a lot of energy and stuff to the group. And I still do. When I go up the Northeast, somewhere in one of those places, venues that we played, they say, "How about that old Dave? Where's he at now? He used to play at bass and sing something." I said, "He's still around." I said, "He's down in Nashville and doing real good." So they're always glad to hear about you too.
Well, once you figured out that I would play a bass solo on anything, you gave me way more bass solos than ever I've had. Somewhere I have a tape. I'll have to find this and send it.
Well, we've got some
Port Huron, Michigan. We played that little club there, and we're doing a 2-chord Hank Williams song. It might have been I can't think of the title now. But it was just a song that you would never think of as having a bass solo.
You wouldn't think of much
big old bass solo
there, but you made it. You made a good sound there. Good showing.
That was funny. And so you eventually made your way back to Arkansas. When did you leave Boston and go back that way?
I think it was around 99, wasn't it?
97.
97? Okay. 97, because we decided, well, we were traveling sometimes from Boston to L.A. That's a long trip. And, and if I left Linda and the family in New England, it's a long time away.
Yep.
So I said, well, we're not going back to right where I'm from, South Arkansas.
Yeah.
But northwest corner of Arkansas, Springdale, Fayetteville area.
Yep.
And I said, that's not exactly halfway, but it cuts off the distance of travel. A lot.
Yep.
So we moved there.
Yeah. But you were originally from Smackover.
Yeah.
One of the great
that's a little
city
French
names of all
yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what did you
it's Smackover.
Covered.
Something.
Hidden flower or something like that.
Yeah, and somebody. No, let's just call it Smackover. I love that. And so working out of Arkansas, you've got some guys that you work with there, and of course, you're within a little closer reach of everything. And I was really tickled back in 2012 when I had an opportunity to get you to come to Nashville, and we decided to jump in and make the Sleepy LaBeef Rides Again record and DVD. And I've been very pleased with the response we've gotten. You know, people who know you are very hungry for anything new, and I felt like that was something that told a good story, and we had the chance to play with a great band, and you know, guys like Kenny Vaughn.
And I don't know where I ever told you, but I think I did. I appreciate you making it happen, putting it all together. I appreciate that.
In terms of the people, like you mentioned, Rosetta Tharpe and the Bales Brothers, were there any other performers that you feel like, looking back, have been underappreciated, and that you feel like people should go seek them out and see if they can find that music, if it still exists?
Well, there's so many. I'd have to write a whole page on it, but and I wouldn't want to shun some.
Well, I understand that.
But there was a lot of good ones back there that was an influence to me. There was some that were known, some unknown, you know. But I'm thankful that they were there for me to draw from.
Yeah.
I don't think of any of them that I imitated, but I stole a lot of things, phrasing it, different things at different times from different ones.
Right.
Because I figured it was good stuff.
Yeah. And really, that's kind of your musical philosophy has been, you know, being in the moment, but having this huge palette of things to draw from. So when you're on stage and you're playing a song, you got something else in the back of your head.
I'm performing it, I'm enjoying it, but I can think of 3 or 4 more, and I might, you know, not do them in order as I was thinking at the time, but I'll usually pull 1 or 2 of those that I'm thinking about during that show.
Right. So you're sort of making up the set list as you go along.
Oh, yeah. There's no written down list.
That's
only time I ever had to do that was for a radio show or TV show or something like that.
Yeah, where they wanted to predict.
Did they expect that? They want to be able to predict you then.
Yeah. But I mean, I think just the way that, you know, like, I mean, having played with you and having watched you, you know, where you can go from rockabilly to stone country to gospel to blues, and it all sounds like you. And I think those influences you had as a kid from your uncles and from the music you were hearing, I mean,
they made it flexible.
Yeah, and you know, I think your comment about Elvis and the freedom of that, because I mean, I've taken that approach that you have and applied it to other things, and I've done the same things with some of the lessons I learned from Don Williams. That it is all about that song. It's all about that song that you're doing right then. And you do whatever's right for that song.
Yep.
And that can mean 1,000 notes or it can mean 3 notes. And so I'm really grateful that I learned that lesson from you. But I just think I think about people like Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who's now finally getting her due, and she just got named to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is really great. But long overdue. But like, you know, the one video where she's got that white Gibson guitar and all the singers behind her, you know, that's just such an iconic thing. And I would have never known who she was if it wasn't for you. And in terms of just, you know, you look at all these things that you've learned and collected over the years. You know, they call you the human jukebox. I don't think we've ever been able to put a real number on how many songs there is, but I know somewhere I have a cassette of Linda reciting song titles in alphabetical order. I've got a couple of big boxes of cassettes. I'm gonna have to find that, because you're literally going through the alphabet, and it's like a 90-minute cassette, and it probably only gets to the letter D. You know, it's just one title after another, and I thought that, I don't know how in the world I ended up.
Hey, Dave, not to be blowing the horn too much here for you, but because you don't need it, you've made your mark, and you're still doing it and doing good. But Linda made a list one time of all the side men. It was just guessing pretty close to how many. I'd had over 300.
Wow. And
I'd had more than Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. So you were in those numbers, but you were one of the top ones in there as far as contributing to it.
It was a great experience for me, and you know, I'm just real grateful that we've been able to stay friends and over the years, and you know, I just have a ton of respect for you, and not only as a musician but as a person. You know, you've lived a really
consider you our friend too, Dave. Well, not just a business associate.
Absolutely, but you've lived a really good life, and you've helped a lot of people, and you've always been very unselfish and really made family an important priority in your life. And many musicians can't pull that off. So my hat's off to you for that.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And we'll try to, just don't make this just one occasion. We want to visit with you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm due for a road trip. I need to throw my stuff in the car. We'll meet halfway in Memphis or something. But anyway, I appreciate you taking a few minutes before you head home to just kind of talk about some of this stuff. Any other story, anything come to mind that something we might have looked over? Linda, can you think of anything?
Well, we're going to start doing more shows, even if it's solo and the band is furnished. Mm-hmm. We'll get back out there and start doing. Linda had a few health problems.
Sure hope so.
She's getting a lot better.
That's great.
And I had a few back. It's been 10 years ago, wasn't it?
Your heart surgery?
Yeah, I had the heart surgery.
15 years.
And that's been pretty good shape.
Yeah, and you
had no problem.
You dropped some weight, which made some people a little concerned. But I told him, I said, he just pushed away the plate. That's what Sleepy told me. I said, it's on purpose.
Eat the same thing, but just less of it.
I kind of took that advice myself. I'm working on that. But, like when you go up, and I know you did a show up in Lincoln Center in New York not too long ago.
Right.
With James Burton and some other folks.
Yeah.
And it must be fun to reconnect with some of those guys. Cause, I mean,
I knew him from the Hayrides.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Staff player. Gene Dunlap was too.
Gene Dunlap? That's right.
He was staff for Hayride too for
great piano
before
player.
I hired him.
Yeah.
Then I took him out on the road. We did quite a few things.
But I mean, James, every time I see James, we shoot the breeze and your name always comes up and he just breaks into a big old smile. He's a good man.
Well,
but
he likes that kind of music too. He likes a mixture and he can play all of it too.
Yep. Well, he, and I think it's really interesting, that your music is real Southern roots music, but you've got this huge pocket of fans up in New England from those years that you lived up there. And, and we would have these dedicated fans that would follow you around. And I just remember, playing the Hillbilly Ranch in Boston. That was
Stewart Street.
Yeah, which is where, Hank Williams played and all kinds of people. And we played there not too long before they closed it, I think. And that was in that kind of dodgy area of town called the Combat Zone. And I can remember. I can remember walking with my bass case and going, I have steel-toed boots if anybody's going to steal my bass, but nobody tried. But I had a great time working those gigs with you up in there, and my parents are from New York and Massachusetts, and I've always had an affinity for that part of the country, but I never lived up there. And the closest I ever came to living there was when I was with you at the
lived there a little while.
The Amesbury truck stop there, the fifth wheel. And I remember it was closed down for a while, and then it reopened, and we played it when it reopened. Then that was the first time I met Peter Goralnik, and he was just working on that book Lost Highway, and
right.
And he's become a great friend, and again, because of you, there are just so many connections and things that I just would not have been aware of. So I just want to say thanks.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to be a little part of it.
Oh, you're a big part of my life, Sleepy. I appreciate you and Linda so much, and you're doing a great job, raising your grandkids and just living a good life.
Well, we're still doing it. We hadn't finished it yet.
Yeah, well, we're all a work in progress, that's for sure.
I do have one question. Where did the name Sleepy LaBeef come from?
Well, Sleepy was because when I started, it's a short story. I'll make it short. Could be longer. But I started school, smack over Arkansas, and right off they said, hey, come over here, sleepyhead, Sleepy. And so they started calling me Sleepy. That infuriated my mother. She didn't like that a bit. So she paid a little visit to the school, and talking to the principal and the teacher, said, his name is Thomas. I didn't name him Sleepy. I said, I appreciate if you, boy, that just cinched it. From then on, it was Sleepy. If it was only to aggravate her,
Yeah. Well, you do have some pretty major eyelids, but I can tell the difference between when you're awake and asleep.
Yeah. And LaBeef is several interpretations of how you pronounce it. It's LaBeef, LaBeef, and it's according to how you want to say it. It's French word.
Yeah.
How's the original spelling go? L-E-B-O-U-E or something?
Yeah, yeah.
B-O.
LaBeef.
B-E-O-U-G-H, I think.
But anyway, we come down to simplicity. In fact, Columbia, we was going by Sleepy LaBeef, 2 F's.
Right.
And Columbia said, it's still a little complicated. Let's say something everybody can say. Beef, they can say beef. Let's say Sleepy LaBeef. LaBeef, same thing. The bull, the cow, you know what?
That's right. Well, you know, I mean, it's no different than the people who came to Ellis Island and changed their names to make it more American, you know.
Yeah.
There's not much more American than LaBeef, I think, you know. But I tell you what, man, you have had an amazing career. I think your perseverance and your lack of ego and understanding that, you know, every gig is just as important to those people in the audience as a big gig at Madison Square Garden, and you always made sure the audience had a good time. I have vivid memories of these long medleys of songs where the audience would dance and nobody wanted to stop, and it would be like a 45-minute medley until people like literally staggering off the dance floor.
I've had them at the Wayside Lounge in Houston. I've had them dance until they pass out. It's the energy got them, you know.
If that's not success, I don't know what is. You know?
I remember Rockin' Billy. Rockin' Billy used to come. We worked maybe a sit-down gig at the Wayside, and he'd come in while we were setting up, tuned up. He said, "Sleepy, hurry up, let's hook 'em up and dance."
Rockin' Billy.
Dance, you know.
I love it. Well, that's great. Now, you know, of course, the last thing I thought here is, you know, now we have what people call Americana music, also known as roots music. And I would make the statement to anybody that you were one of the first guys to really understand what that was before there was a name for it, before they knew. And Americana eventually has become this sort of catch-all where if it's to, you know, if to this or to that, it can fall into that thing. But you've been doing that all along, and I consider you to be one of the greatest historians of American music that I know. And I'm just glad that they finally found a genre that captures what you do. And if you're not Americana, I don't know what
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that. And sometimes, like I say, I've been here a long time. I should have observed and learned a lot, and I hope I have. I'm thankful for that. But sometimes I can get a little long-winded because to me it meant more sometimes than it did the person that's receiving what I'm saying. But I don't want to overdo it. But I don't forget it. I don't forget the experiences.
No, it's great. Well, you've given a lot to the world, and really, really proud to have been able to do some stuff and call you my friend, and we're going to make some more music real soon.
Let's do it, yeah. Awesome. Thank you, David.
Love you, pal.
Appreciate you, love you.
You bet.
Well, darling, let's turn back the years and go back to yesterday. We'll pretend that time has passed and that you never went away. We have our love to make us happy. It wasn't meant to bring us tears. Love like ours should never ever die. So darling, let's turn back the years. Oh darling,